to me was about love and about getting along with your significant other. They wanted it to work. I'm getting goose pimples. they wanted their marriage to work. And I mean, she almost killed them both with her crazy rocks. But he forgave her. And I'm not used to these happy endings, because lately we have not so happy endings in the movies, and I like a happy ending. I think we need it right now. James, right? Is that your name?
Jim.
James?
It's Jim, actually. Jim. Yeah, my birthday was Jim. People are always shocked, like, what? I guess my father was lazy, so you just come with a 3-letter word. Yeah.
So no, Jim's a nice name. When is your birthday?
September 11th. So people tend to remember.
Well, September is one of the nicer months of the whole year. It's really
I love my birthday. I love it. It's right at the start of the football week 1 of the football season, always in my birthday. I love it. And it was always like the second week of starting school too. So it's kind of a bad reminder when I was, in high school or college, like, oh, back to school, my birthday,
Oh, that's wonderful. But I meant some months aren't easy. Like we have a new moon in August. That's not my favorite.
Yes.
So there's some turbulence, but September is glorious. It's one of the best months this year.
Really?
Wow.
So yeah, you can go ahead and plan your party or your trip. Are you going to go somewhere? Maybe you should go somewhere.
I
know I haven't been anywhere because I'm so terrified of this virus, but I've had my Moderna shots. So
very good. Yeah.
I'm going to come to LA because my daughter lives there, in Hancock Park. She works for CBS. She's James Corden's music producer.
Really?
Oh, I love that. How
yeah, she's won 5
Love
Emmys.
that show.
5.
Oh my gosh, she must be so
But they're not up for
Incredible.
one this year, and so she's bummed out about that. But producing a show for all the late night shows from their apartments, it was just so hard.
I can only imagine. It's so based on a live crowd.
What's that?
It's so based on a live crowd, the reactions of it. So it just
that too.
Yeah.
CBS is not allowing any audience yet for James. And even when she goes in, because she had Ed Sheeran for a week, you had to be tested every day, and you sit there for 15 minutes until they get the test back. Right. It doesn't matter if you came yesterday, you have to do it again today. They're really careful. I kind of like that though. And she's a mile from Fairfax Studio. Yeah, she said I can take my bike, even though they have a place with my name in the car and all that stuff.
Right.
Big time.
Sometimes she just takes her bike.
Oh. Sometimes
right now she's in Hawaii, and I'm jealous, but she says it's glorious over there. Oh. So yeah.
I wonder how the travel is to Hawaii. If there's a lot of vacationers, or I wonder what it's like out there.
She said it was full, but no, she went to Kauai, not the big island, the littler. I said, well, what is that like? She said, like the Hamptons, Montauk is the more hippie place. That's where Kauai is. She said it's off the beaten track of tourists, but just as beautiful. She took her bike all around with her friend, and they scoped it out.
That's phenomenal.
Amazing.
They have a bed, and they took an Airbnb. I guess you can get them anywhere, right?
Yeah.
I like hotels because I need my FedEx, I need my Wi-Fi. I have to bring my office with me, checks, stamps. I have to, so, but it's okay. I like hotels. It's all right. But so everybody's coming on about now.
We can go ahead and get started.
Okay.
We should have at least 2 or 3 more reporters coming on. I just pinged them. But yeah, Joe and Jim, you guys can just raise your hand, physically or whatever, and I'll call it old school style.
That's right.
And Joe, we're recording, so we'll send you the recording.
This has been the best assignment ever.
Yes, right. Okay, so yeah, you guys, Joe, do you want us to give you recording capabilities on your end, or are you like writing?
No, that would be great if you give them the recording.
Okay. All right.
You have a great voice. I think voiceovers are in your future.
Hey, take that from an expert. That's expert prognostication.
Well, I did make a documentary, and my voice is the narrator. So
it's like cognac. It's so smooth.
Yeah.
It calms me down when I listen. You're like James Earl Jones. Everything's going to be fine.
It's a little froggy in the morning, though.
Joe,
what city are you in? Where are you?
I live in Pasadena, California, Los Angeles County. So.
I'm in Manhattan, and the other gentleman, Jim, is in Chicago, and Ellen's in LA too. Oh, that just fell off.
Oh no. Okay.
Wow. Okay, but I got it back on. Wow, it just flew at me. Wow. Okay. Oh.
The Manhattan wind on the 20-something floor.
Yeah. So, have you all watched the movies? Any of them at all? Have you seen any of them?
I've seen most of those films already many times.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you're really good in.
Rebel Without a Cause. No,
That's my favorite movie of all time. Rebel Without a Cause, right now.
I love that movie, and I had never seen it until now.
Oh, wow.
It's one of those things that you always wanted to do and you never got to do it. And he has a sweetness in that movie, a kindness, and you feel bad for him with his dysfunctional mother and father and sister. They're all a little crazy, and no, he was really special. I loved them all. I loved Kirk Douglas in The Bad and the Beautiful. That was an interesting kind of twisty plot that I liked, and it showed you what goes into making a movie and how he treated everybody, and yet he made them all stars, even though they all hated him.
Right.
But he's Sagittarius. Oh, I should find out. What's your signs? Now I know you're Virgo, Jim, and the other man from Pasadena.
Libra. I'm a Libra.
You're a Libra. What's your first name again? I'm sorry, I forgot.
Joe.
Joe? Oh, Joe. Well, we had you had a good one. You had Rita Hayworth with Gilda.
Yeah.
And she's as smooth as
born on the same day, I think.
Soda. She is just gorgeous in that. I just loved it so much, and you really got to see the role of women in those days. They really needed a man because they didn't have their own income. So if you didn't get married, you were kind of out in left field, right? They all seemed to want a man, and how they played a little hard to get, Did you notice that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine how things have changed.
That I was really paying attention,
What I found interesting about that movie is that I didn't realize it until I saw a couple reviews on it, current reviews on it, that there's this homosexual undertow of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that Glenn Ford and that older mafia guy were kind of had this relationship, and it's very very kind of just put in there. And I thought, I never caught that. I said,
I didn't either.
There's something kind of odd going on here, because it's like the way they talk to each other.
Oh yeah,
like lovers.
Well, there were like little subplots. Let's see, when did they do that movie? 1946.
Yeah.
That's one of the early ones, because a lot of these are in the 50s.
Right.
And a lot of them. But the earliest one is Greta Garbo in Grand Hotel.
Oh, yeah.
1932.
Yeah, that was amazing.
He was the earliest one. Although there's Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire in 1934. I just watched it again. I've never seen them in a movie, a whole movie. And I thought, well, maybe I won't like it as much as the others. I loved it. I laughed, I smiled. I felt myself smiling. I'm sitting there smiling, and they're not even reaching the floor. She had the moon in Pisces. I did all these charts. Let's see, air, fire, earth here. And I did all of them. And she really had a great chart for dancing, but she worked so well with Fred Astaire. Like it was like they were 2 inches above the floor and they mirrored each other so seamlessly. I loved it so much. I just, here's her chart. She had Gemini rising and she had a moon in Pisces and she's a Cancer. You know, when you have the moon is the fine tuning to your character. And it's the part of you people don't see immediately. It's just like the moon comes out at night. Things about you that they'd almost have to work with you or live as a roommate or a guest for a while, like a month, before they began to see the other beautiful facets to you. And here she's gliding across the floor and just poetry in motion. I'm going to look for his chart. I have him in the same folder now. I don't know where it is. Oh, I know what happened. We were focusing on her, but I did do him. Let me just see. Yeah, here he is. And he was Sagittarius. Wow. Well, he has Sag rising, and he was a Taurus with the moon in Gemini, and she had Gemini rising. That was the good. Do you know about the rising sign? Have you heard about that? The rising.
I know what it means, though.
Oh, okay. When you do a chart, this is the horizon line of Earth.
Okay.
And this is the East, like the East River in New York.
Right.
And you have to know your exact time of birth. That's what was coming up over the horizon as you were being born. And your rising sign is just as important as your Libra sun, Joe, just as important. And does Jim, do you know your rising sign?
I don't. I was actually recently, I just found out my birth time. Like I didn't know I had to.
Ah, well, you know what?
Yeah.
You're going to give, both of you will give your birthdays to Ellen. And I'll tell you where your planets are. I'll even send you your chart. If you give me your cell phone number, I'll send the picture of the chart. So you'll have it in your phone.
Yes.
So if I should bump into you on a Chicago street, you'll say, so Susan, what's happening with me?
And we have another reporter that just joined, Henry.
Henry?
Hi, I'm Henry. I'm from Into. Very pleased to meet you. I'm a very big fan from way back.
Henry, what's your sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Yes. Gemini was born to be a reporter. Yes. They are the Paul Revere of the signs. The British are coming. The British are coming. They inform people. I bet you're a great writer.
Thank you.
And you probably got a column early in life, because you having some Gemini in the chart really helps. Gemini, Sagittarius, or Virgo makes great writers. I'm sure you already, all of you have something, and I will let you know. The other two guys, Joe and Jim, don't know their rising sign. Do you know yours?
I do know. I think it's Leo. I was born at 10:20 p.m. on May 22nd.
Okay.
So,
well, I won't do the charts right this minute, but I can tell you stuff afterwards when you give Ellen your birthday and all that. And by the way, be sure to give Ellen your home address so I can send you my calendar that I make myself. I self-publish, and it has all your best days, so you'll never have a meeting on the wrong day. Okay, you can just
yes.
In New York, even
Vital.
CNN, they're hanging all over the place. Harper's Bazaar, Vogue, all of them, because I send, a box up to each, the people I know up there. So I want to include you on my list, and you'll get it right away. Because I have my own little stash. I have a fulfillment house, but I have my own little stash here. But anyway,
Jim, do you want to? Who wants to take it away with the first question?
Yeah, I'll go. Everyone boiling up.
Popcorn around.
Susan, so this is Jim. What was when you were researching, in a sense, and covering these specific actors for TMC for this special. Which one that stood out to you the most? Was there anyone that was the most poignant? Anything that kind of like, in a sense, blew you away? Maybe with a particular actor that you looked at that was like, wow, that something moved inside of you when you saw that, and then you kind of correlated to their performance and film.
Well, they all did. Take Lucille Ball. She is a Leo. And we did Fire the first week. So she was the long trailer. And, you know, that movie, Desi Arnaz is a Pisces, and Pisces works really well with other signs. They let the other sign come first. They're more shy, and they're a good foil. And she had Capricorn rising. And a friend of mine who is in his 80s, a great astrologer, I had lunch with him and I said, what do you think of Lucille Ball's chart? He said, Leo with Capricorn rising is the empire builder. She's got all that, you know, financial savvy. And I said, yes. And that get up and go of a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs are Aries, Libra, Cancer, and Capricorn. And they just want to redo things all the time and start new. Like when I was up at Elle, I used to write for Elle, and they said, we're redoing the whole magazine. I said, why? It looks great the way it is. I said, oh, well, we just think we want to. And they're a Libra company. So they tear everything apart, even though it didn't need it. It really looked beautiful before they did it. It looked beautiful after, but I think they were working too hard. But the thing, you know, TCM asked me, how come they didn't stay married? Because they really had good charts together. And nothing is destined in astrology. And I had to look and look, because believe me, it didn't shout out at me. But he had Pluto in a certain place. And Pluto is the 800-pound gorilla who sits anywhere he wants and has a scorched earth method of negotiating with people. And I want it my way or the highway kind of thing. So my hat goes off to them. They work 24/7 together. Isn't that hard on any marriage? And we're the beneficiaries. They're so cute together. And that particular movie, to me, was about love and about getting along with your significant other. They wanted it to work. I'm getting goosepimples. They wanted their marriage to work. And I mean, she almost killed them both with her crazy rocks. But he forgave her. And, you know, I'm not used to these happy endings, because lately we have not so happy endings in the movies, and I like a happy ending. I think we need it right now. I loved it, you know. So, you know, despite all their nightmares with that trailer and how expensive it was, they somehow stayed married and loved each other and showed their love. And yet, weave through this movie, you see her in her apron, and she's going to make, you know, all these dishes in the trailer, and she wants to surprise him, and she's going to can peaches, and like, it's crazy. But you know, you just love her for it. And no, but they all had interesting charts. What surprised me somewhat the most was that Aquarius ran through like a silver thread through so many charts. Now, you didn't have to be an Aquarian like James Dean. Some had the moon in Aquarius, a lot had Aquarius rising. And Aquarius, if you know one, try to think of somebody you know born end of January, February. They're perfectly nice to meet in real life, but when they are on a camera, something happens and they electrify. The camera loves them, and it's just magic to see. And so many of them, I would say 70% of them, had some Aquarius somewhere in the chart, and prominent. And that helps you, because Aquarius is the future, the new age, and all these movies were were done really at the infancy of film, you know, especially in the 30s. And then you could see how the plots were getting a little bit more complex as you went along. But I always felt they had a subplot. You take Steve McQueen, he's an Aries, right? What a perfect movie for an Aries. Aries always wants to win. They will never say, oh, it's the way you play the game. No, the whole point is to win. And I felt at the end, despite the fact that he wasn't really the best boyfriend to Tuesday Weld, he was a little distant, and yet he came to see her at mother's house when she went to stay with her mom that summer, or part of the summer. He got the girl in the end. And to me, he won, you know, and he was just having a bad luck time. You saw it with the little shoe shine boy. His luck was down that week. But as the man, Edward G. Robinson, said, you got talent, kid. You know, you got talent. And he was even nervous about meeting him, and he had heard his reputation. So you knew eventually Steve McQueen would win this. The Cincinnati Kid would win the game. You know, it just wasn't right this minute. But he did get the girl, and maybe the girl was better. Well, I'm a romantic. That's how I felt. I bet a guy looks at it a little differently, maybe. You can tell me.
I have a question. Do you see a through line in some of these stars, like in Security, like, you know, Elizabeth Taylor, or, you know, even Tragedy, you know, like with Marilyn Monroe and James?
They all had it. Well, Marilyn Monroe had Neptune rising. She's a Gemini. Neptune is the silver screen. It's fantasy. It's unconditional love and beauty. It's the higher octave of Venus. We have Venus who just wants to have fun, and she's a little hedonistic. She wants designer bags and great restaurants and spas and everything. But Neptune takes it to a higher level, being a slower moving planet, that they're connected, and brings it into unconditional love and a deeper sensation. The trouble with Neptune is it has two sides, and the other side is drugs and alcohol, because they take the fantasy, some people, not everybody, too far. And you know, they talked a lot about how she would be late on the set and, you know, not come prepared sometimes. She, according to Wikipedia, I read up a little bit too, she was a perfectionist. She wanted to get it right. And that's why she was a little late. She was nervous and studying all night. And, you know, I didn't know that about Marilyn. And she had such a quality. You couldn't keep your eyes off her. And yet that sweetness, that darling sweetness about her, that other beautiful women are beautiful, but they don't have that innocent charm that Marilyn, that was very important. And but that Neptune rising was difficult. Now with let me look at James Dean. He died at what, 24 or
23, something like that.
Horrible. I have him right here. And here, Sal Mineo died early too.
Yeah.
Sal Mineo.
All three of them died tragically.
Who's the third one? Natalie Wood. Yeah. Oh, that's horrible.
All three of them.
And Sal Mineo, I
He was
believe,
murdered. He was murdered.
right? It was a hate crime. It was a homophobic bashing. Yeah.
What with Sal Mineo?
With Sal Mineo, yeah.
It was at least a robbery for sure. He was stabbed. Yeah, in West Hollywood. Yeah.
Yeah, I read that he was stabbed. Oh,
Yeah.
horrible.
And he was
Well, here's James Dean's chart. Well, he has Uranus rising, which means he's all about the future. I read that this was the first movie, and you tell me, Ellen, because the people at TCM are like librarians. They know these films 6 ways to Sunday. And oh my God, when I was writing my very first book, the Book of Days, Time Inc. was publishing it, and I was in the Time Inc. library, and I couldn't figure out, I think it was Rita Hayworth had 2 birthdays. It was coming up all the time, 2 birthdays. And I'm like, why? So I asked the librarians, they said after her brother died, she took her brother's birthday. And she would just tell the press that was her birthday after her brother died. I think it was Rita Hayworth. And see, librarians would know this. Nobody else would be able to tell you this. So they can fill in a lot. But see, he had Uranus rising, which meant he was an iconoclast. He would break new ground. And it would be his personality. Because this is the first house of the horoscope, the first house, second house, third house. This is the first house. So he did things his way. But you see that Uranus is square Saturn and square Pluto. He did not have it easy. That's pretty severe. I'm born with Uranus right there too, on the horizon line like his, and it's square the sun. And I grew up in hospitals. I've had more surgery than anyone I've ever met. I've had 40 blood transfusions. I was born with a birth defect. That's what brought me into astrology. But they saved me, you know, it takes a village. But so I had all these challenges, but he had nothing in the area that would, well, actually Pluto rules his house of death. Do we know how he died? Was it a car accident?
Yeah, it was a car
Correct.
accident. I think it could have been the other person's fault.
Oh my goodness.
I can't remember, but I think but he was going fast, but it wasn't, I don't think it was his fault. I think
Wasn't that fast. Yeah. Oh, wow.
But yeah, Pluto.
But boy, his short life,
yeah,
he really created a lot. You know, every chart is different, but that is weird that in that movie, they all died early. Yeah. I loved Natalie Wood. Didn't TCM just have, I was looking everywhere for this film that you were talking about on Instagram. I'm on Twitter and Instagram as at Astrology Zone, and so I followed TCM, and Natalie's birthday was July 20th. So I was looking for that movie that they were talking about. But what Spectrum does, sometimes you're always watching channel 81 and then they switch it to 571. And I have to keep calling them. I'm like, where's my movie? Where is it? Where is it? You know? And I couldn't remember the name of that movie.
Was it Splendor in the Grass?
It wasn't that one. That one I knew. This was different. It was in the 60s and she wears this white satin dress and she's dancing in the little clip that TCM, you know, kind of by herself, you know.
Oh, Inside Daisy Clover?
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that. And I didn't know that movie and I wanted to see it, but maybe they'll run it again eventually. I'm such a fan now. I'm just over the moon about these, and the millennials probably haven't seen any of them, and this is so good for them to see the history of film, you know. But that was a good question, Joe. You know, the only two charts I've ever seen that were really terrible charts in terms of safety was Princess Diana and John F. Kennedy.
Really? So it really aligned and showed, wow, that's unbelievable.
Crazy.
Well, John F. Kennedy, I think it was the mafia. You know, his father had taken money from the mafia. And then when Kennedy got in office, he had his brother looking into the mafia, kind of biting the hand that fed. Right. But they both, where's Princess Diana? She's somewhere. I had her here, but I must have put her off to the side. I think all the Queen had to do is say to the driver, you know, you wait long hours for her to come into the car. You can have a few drinks. Go right ahead, you know. That's all she'd have to do. I think I don't think Harry is Charles' son. I think he's the
totally
writing
agree. I
instructor.
totally agree on that.
You know, my
Absolutely.
friends work at Access Hollywood, and they said the writing instructor was at Meghan and Harry's wedding. Now, who invites a writing instructor to the wedding,
Yeah.
especially in a small church? You know, so yeah, that's another reason he feels easier to step. Well, they call it stepping away. It's abdicating, really, but yeah, he is Virgo with Capricorn rising, so he does love tradition. I think the book is a bad idea. I don't know how you come back from that. I don't believe in talking about your family on national television like that, but or calling your child a secret name of your grandmother. You know, they're doing a lot of rebellious steps, but they must be really upset to go that far, you know, so I will allow for that, you know. But you can see violence in a chart. I know where I would tell people, you know, I wouldn't go hang gliding this weekend or something like that, you know.
Right.
But I saw the 2 space shots, and they did pick a very good time to go up. Mercury.
You can pick up, might be an important call.
I don't know what this is. Hello?
love
only
it.
Courtney has my calendar. The rest of my team does not. I have 17 people reporting to me. But most of them are engineers. About 8 of them are engineers. So, you know, you can see when people are accident prone, or for example, we have a new moon coming on in November. I can give you the exact date, and it's a little difficult. On November 4th, and I wrote about it right on the calendar, November 4th. We had a monster moon on April 26th. And I was very worried about it because my ex-husband, I was very close to my ex-husband. He was at all the family dinners. I mean, not even Christmas and birthdays. He was always there because my daughter had a baby, and as little Otis was growing up, he's 5 now, he was always there, and I was happy to see him. And he lived in my neighborhood. I'd run into him on the street. And I didn't like this full moon at all. And I even asked Diana to come to New York, my daughter from LA, sooner than she was going to, but she couldn't because she got the Moderna shot and she had to wait the 2 weeks before she got on a plane. Well, he had Parkinson's and he died on that full moon. Wow. And it was very, very sudden. But it was such a violent full moon. I hope you all got through April 26th okay, but I didn't because I was in shock. I still am, you know. So, and when my mother, I saw a very bad aspect for my mother. When you're an astrologer, if you see the aspect echoing in all the family, that everybody, it's touching something in all of our charts, and that's very rare. I saw it with Dawn and I saw it with my mother, and she did die on that weekend. Oh, no. And I said to myself, I have to get out of this business. You cannot see death clearly. I can't look at somebody's chart and they tell me how many years will I live. I can't see that, but I can see a difficult aspect coming up. And I said to myself, if Dawn could live to the evening of May 1st, because you always have 5 days after a full moon, then he'll be out of the woods at the end of May 1st, but he died at 8 o'clock in the morning on May 1st. And Parkinson's is a very bad illness. It's treacherous because it's degenerative. So, but I still, you know, the optimist, he'll get through it. He'll be fine, you know. But I had just visited him at the hospital. They were giving him rehab because he was learning how to walk again, because your blood pressure falls when you stand up, when you have this, and you get dizzy. So they were trying to rehabilitate him a little bit. And he was in this place near me. And he was walking with a walker down the hall. And I thought, oh, he's going to be good. But he had convulsions, and then that affected his heart, which was very good heart. But he went into a coma for a day, and then he died. So, but so you can see bad aspects coming, but I don't even look for them. I know on the first week when Alicia Malone asked me, why did Lucille Ball get, divorced from Desi Arnaz? I couldn't see anything in this chart that was bad. Nothing. That's why I had lunch with my friend who's an esteemed astrologer in his 80s, the late 80s. I said, you have to find something. He says, I see what you mean. And we finally came to the conclusion it was Pluto. So, and sometimes it's a choice. You know how I don't believe in compatibility things, where, my best friend, every time she dates somebody new, she says, oh, do you think he's cute? I'm like, yeah, sure, he's very cute. Do his chart, because Match gives you his birthday. I'm like, Anna, just go out with him. Just give this poor guy a chance, Yeah. Now, let's say you've gone out with him 5 times, and every time you're eating at a food truck on a bench. Maybe you could ask me if he's a little stingy, it's okay. If it's not like one of these great food trucks, give me like a specific question, because I can never know a whole person by the first time I read them for 2 hours. I have to watch them. And you do have a big say in how you use the energies of your chart. Like, for example, I could see singing ability, let's say with Beyonce, but if she didn't go to a coach, we would never hear her sing. It's always a choice. You're working with there's some things you can't control, like my birth defect. But yet, so many years in the hospital, and they had to paralyze me during the operation to save my life because I was bleeding out. And then I had to go through 2.5 years of physical therapy and not go to high school, because I had to have 6 hours a day as an outpatient after the 11 months in the hospital. And so I did all of high school with homeschool. Board of Education works with kids like that. So people say to me, you didn't miss much. You missed the mean girls,
Probably.
And then I went to NYU, and I had skipped the 8th grade earlier. So now I'm in college at 16. So I go from junior high to college, which was a shock in itself. And I majored in business. So there were mostly guys in my class who wouldn't be my friend because they thought I was there to get married. I was not there to get married. I was just there to get a degree. But finally, I ran for office. And I also learned to play chess, because they didn't have Facebook then. I know you're shocked, but they didn't. And so in the student lounge, everybody played chess. So if you wanted to make friends, you had to too. It's the best thing I learned in college. All of life is chess, believe me. I think I should have learned poker too after I watched the Cincinnati Kid. But it opened my heart. This whole ordeal opened my heart. I saw, when you're in the hospital that long, different people are going in and out of your room, and people with back surgeries. And I was in an orthopedic hospital. The doctors thought it was a bone problem when it was really a very rare internal bleeding situation. So here I'm watching all these people going through really massively difficult surgeries, and I'm praying for them, and I'm worried about them. And I'd see them go up, I'd see them come back. Eventually they'd leave, and then a new roommate. There were always 3 in a room. Now, everything you experience in life makes you better. Everything. And the nurses would say, okay, you're going home now, Susan. You can go and resume your life. And I'm thinking, what a weird sentence that is. I was living my life, it was part of my life. So but my mother was a real cheerleader. I'll never forget her saying this. She said, Susie, when we break you out of jail, you're going to be able to travel. Because I could never travel, never knowing when I'd get an attack. But when I'd get an attack, I'd have to stay in bed for 6 weeks and not move an inch because it was so excruciating. So she said, you'll be able to travel, you'll be able to go to parties, and you'll have pretty dresses in the closet. And and remember, she's talking to a teenage girl. You'll have so many shoes lined up against the wall. You'll say, which shoes will I wear today? She painted this picture. That's what I'm trying to do for my readers, and so having this opportunity with Turner Classic Movies, here we see very successful people. There isn't one actor who was not successful. They all were, and such high key people, and how it affected them. There's no school for fame, is there?
No.
How do you handle it when you, like Britney Spears, and we see people who have trouble with it, and well, now we see why, all that's coming out, but and they handled it in different ways, and people treated them in different ways. When you look at Michael Jackson, what happened to him is very common, where parasites come to you to live off your money. They all were hangers on, and he was generating all this money for everyone. And it was hard on him. He was a Virgo, and Virgo's very modest. They're the opposite of Leo, which has a nice self-confidence. And Ellen has Leo rising, I think you said, and Leo is culture. And that's why you're in the right job. You're studying culture, So, but you have a say in it. Like if I had met Michael, I would have warned him to have a strict lawyer around him or some kind of manager to protect him. But I don't think he had anyone to protect him in terms of how people were siphoning money away from him all the time. I was kind of horrified when I started studying what was going on with him. But anyway, ask me some more questions.
Yeah,
Henry,
what questions do you have?
I do. Well, I want to know, of all the stars, whose films do you enjoy the most? Who's your personal favorite?
Oh, wow. That's a hard one. I did love Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. Their chemistry was unbelievable. And then of course they got married, and I didn't know that. And her clothes were so perfect for Capricorn, because they were very, they were toned down. She had the tweed jacket, and even her evening gowns didn't have a million, sparkles on them. They were elegant, and I loved that one. With Love in the Afternoon with Audrey Hepburn, she's so elegant, and it seemed the plot was a little strange that she was talking about all these men. I just couldn't reconcile that. I'm really glad that Gary Cooper found out that was all made up from Maurice Chevalier, her father. And I loved the ending of that. I loved it. It was so romantic. I loved it. And gosh, let me look at the list, because there are a lot of them, and I looked at every one of them. Some of them I watched twice. I loved Gilda. Gilda was fabulous.
Classic.
And Magumba was really interesting. How Clark Gable was, well, it suits me, to marry her. The ego. I'm the great hunter of large animals, and women fall in love with me. And you can see why. And she was so delicate. And then you got the treat of having Ava Gardner in the same movie. Oh my gosh. And seeing this interplay and how women related to men. And that was in 1953. That was still pretty early. The most modern movie we had was Butterfield 8, I think. That was 60. No, there might have been one later than that. Yes, there was. The Cincinnati Kid was 65. Yeah, it was 65. But that's what interested me the most, how women interacted with men, and how you're really struck by how different it is now. I had never seen Greta Garbo on the screen. I know, you can't.
Wow.
I've been living under a rock. What can I say? But Greta Garbo, when she said she was looking for a job as a stenographer, she
With
has
that
so
face?
much on the ball. I mean, she's so smart in this movie. She's smart in real life. She's smart. And it hits you like a 2x4 on your head that women had to be satisfied with, lower expectations. And the women's movement really changed all that. The trouble is, now the question I get asked the most is, can I have a baby? Women got educated, women got great jobs, but then they forgot to have the baby, and they all write to me 37, 38, 39, 40. So I'm begging young women to freeze their eggs, to give themselves a little extra time, because young eggs are better than older eggs. They have less problems, and I think it's $500 a year to house them and freeze them is worth it, because it's my number one question. So you see the problems change, in these days. Remember, they used to call women spinsters. You never hear that anymore. Thank God. Oh my God.
No, even Butterfield 8 is such a crazy movie too, because it's like just a whole 90 minutes of slut shaming.
Yes.
She has a serious problem
Yes.
with alcohol. No one really cares. It's just like, oh, she's a fast one. It's insane.
And that was
That's
she
such a
hated
good
that
point.
movie too. Elizabeth Taylor
And her
hated that
mother is
movie.
horrified. And
Yeah, crazy.
yeah, but see, I was thinking that about Audrey Hepburn. She's coming off a little bit slutty with all these men. I mean, and she's so elegant. And that looked like an early movie. So Ellen, now you jump in here. Is that an early movie for Audrey Hepburn? She died young too. She died at 63.
I think, I think Roman Holiday 48 or 49, and I believe that was her first big movie. So I think 53 was still pretty young for.
Yeah.
She made movies through at least I think through 1965. So she had a good.
I saw the movie on Netflix on her. She died in Brussels. That's what she went. She wanted to get out of the limelight, away from Paris, to Brussels, to live in the country. Well, she's Taurus. Taurus needs greenery around them. If they live in the city, they have to bring in a tree. They have to bring in fresh flowers. They have to bring in plants, flowering plants. And they love chocolate, by the way. That's a thing about Taurus. They love chocolate. Let's see. Ms. Henry, what is your sign again?
I actually am Gemini Taurus cusp. So that makes it, because I live in LA. I lived in New York for a long time, and I was so depressed and I hated it and I couldn't figure out why.
Oh, really?
And then I came to LA and I was like, oh, I needed trees. So that actually makes perfect sense for me. I need
little cusp babies always think they're nobody's child because am I a Taurus, am I a Gemini? They're actually the luckiest because they take the best, the practicality of Taurus, the ability to be a fine producer. That's what they do. Taurus says, give me a deadline, a crew, and a budget, and I'll get it done. Okay, just tell me. Whereas Aries will start the business and then it'll grow like Jack and the Beanstalk. And they're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Well, they bring in a Taurus. But then you have the communication ability of Gemini. And by the way, Gemini always looks younger than their years. They're associated with the myth of Pan, Peter Pan, the myth of Pan, the original myth. And even into old age, they look much younger than they are. They eat because they're always curious too. They know about all the new social media platforms. They investigate TikTok and Clubhouse, and they're just curious, and that's a big part of, your mannerisms and your interests play into how you look. I don't know how that works. There's some kind of formula, but I think you know what I mean. Somebody could look young, but when they open their mouth, somebody at 30 could sound like they're 55. Do you know what I mean? Because they have no interests and they just sort of stop. Everybody I know has a focus of either the past, the present, or the future as their main focus. Doesn't mean a futuristic person isn't interested in history. They are. But the main, we know people. I mean, I have a friend, Mickey. No matter what I'm doing, he's, when I see him, he's always looking back and wondering if he made the right decisions. We're in a luncheonette. We both order tuna fish on white toast. After the waitress leaves, maybe I shouldn't have ordered that. Well, maybe I should have had something else. Mickey, it's fine. It sounds really good. I'm having the same thing. It's okay. You torture yourself too much but see, the moon rules memories, and Cancer's ruled by the moon, and it rules the past, the repository of your dreams too, and your feelings. And that's what's pushing Cancer. He's a Cancer to look back. So no, it's just interesting.
We have about 5 minutes left. Who else has questions? Jim, Joe?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm kind of curious. Susan, I don't know if you've been following much of the recent kind of celebrity dating, but obviously Ben Affleck's had a heck of a dating life in so many ways. And now he's back with Jennifer Lopez.
I like them together.
How do they fit together?
They fit together really well. Isn't he a Leo and she?
He is.
No,
yeah,
she's the Leo and he's the Aquarius. There's some
he's
kind
August 15th and she's July 24th, actually. So
they're both Leos. They're both
Yeah.
Leos. The only thing about two fixed signs together is that they you know what it is? The way to make it work, because fixed signs have fixed opinions. They say, this is your domain, this is my domain. And you need someone to have the last vote. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think they could make it work. They were under terrible aspects when they met. How many years ago was that?
Like 15 at least.
Yeah, 15. You're right.
Yeah. Well, that's a Saturn cycle. 14 years is a Saturn cycle. And Saturn was the big problem. It takes 29 years for Saturn to go around the sun. So half of that is almost 15. Yeah. So they're trying to correct what happened during that cycle. I didn't think that Alex Rodriguez, although he's an Aries and he's fire, and that would have done well for him. There we go again. He's too much of a skirt chaser. And I didn't see that would work. He just has a history of it. At some point, like, what did they say on the news? If someone shows you who they are, believe it.
Mhm.
And he didn't have the best history. And although she's so successful, she's very tender inside. And I love that about her. And she has the children. And, I don't know how she keeps it all together because she's got a lot of things she's juggling. I think they have a good chance. I think they've both learned a lot from their relationships. I think what broke up his marriage, wasn't he gambling or
Drinking, gambling. Yeah, he had a lot going on. Yep.
And
Infidelity.
I don't think
potentially.
Jennifer Gardner is like, straight, like normal person. And she didn't want the father of her children doing that. But I think when somebody drinks or takes drugs or anything, they're trying to run away from something. They're not happy. And until you cure the problem, you can't get off that train. You have to go for help. And everybody deals with stress differently. Some people need a lot of sex, like Clinton. Some people shop like crazy and spend too much, or other people eat too much. Other people drink. You got to find out your go-to when you're under stress, and be aware of it on the top of your head, because then you can control it better. Sometimes it's so unconscious, you know.
And that's
Usually we look to the
prompted all-
12th house for self-undoing. I know when my mother taught me that, you know, by the way, I kept begging her to teach me astrology, and she kept saying no. I said, you're a scholar. You know so much. Why won't you teach me? Because you have to study 12 years or you won't be any good. And you'll start reading for your friends after a year. I don't have any friends. I don't go to school. I'm homeschooled. She said, and what am I going to do? Sneak out of our 2-story brownstone with my crutches and brace up to my hip, you know, like clunk, clunk, clunk down the marble stairs. No, I finally convinced her that I wasn't going to do that, and that I would keep it a secret between us for 12 years. And I remember when she taught me the concept of the 12th house, part of it being, not all of it, just a propensity sometimes of self-undoing. And I'm like 14 and a half by then. I'm like, wait a minute, you're saying that people do things to hurt themselves? That's impossible, Mama. She said, no, all the time, Susan, all the time. And I was so shocked that people, sure, we all do it. We sabotage ourselves sometimes, and we don't know it. You know, it happens in romance. Girls who say, I never date anybody and I never can keep a relationship going, they may be afraid of commitment. I started examining my own life. When I would go to astrology conventions, the other astrologers wouldn't talk to me because they all went to the schools that, you know, that the clubs, like there's 3 societies where you can learn astrology, and they have tests, and I'm accredited. A lot of people aren't. And they just weren't friends with me. No one would ask me for breakfast. Nobody would say, let's have lunch. And I was feeling like this little black sheep every time I'd go to the convention. And there's a big convention every 4 years. So this time I thought maybe I'm the problem. So I brought all my calendars and I brought envelopes, and I gave the concierge a big tip. And, you know, you knew who was attending because they told you, you know, in the newsletters who's coming. And I sent them to certain people's rooms with a note. Oh, I'd love to have lunch with you. Let's have a cup of coffee. Let's have dinner. Everybody wanted to see me. They thought I didn't want to see them. So sometimes we create our own problems, and we have to think, am I driving this?
They were
And it did
intimidated
change
by
a
you.
lot. My outreach was really the right thing to do, but it never occurred to me until I was so frustrated. Why can't I make any friends in this business? You know, and I am really successful, and they don't like that. I know that. That's part of it. But some of them are very successful. So we did become friends. So at least I could call them and say hello or something like that. You know, you can't live in an industry where nobody likes you. So, I mean, I had to do something. So in love, sometimes men say to me that girls are interested in getting married and having a baby, and they're saying it on the first date, and they're a little too quick about that, or saying I love you by the 3rd date. I'm hearing that from men. So it's interesting. Men tell me things that I think could be helpful to if women knew how they were coming off, you know. Yeah, I think they have to cool it a little bit. You know, a man may say, I never want children, and then fall in love with you and want children. People change their minds, or they're afraid that children would be too expensive. And then they realize, well, I'm doing pretty well. We could have a baby. You know, people change, you know, so I just think, yeah.
This was really fun. I'm really glad that we did this. Oh my gosh, I could listen to you.
Well, since we will only
Yes.
have 3 people, I will definitely tell you about your chart, and put your phone number there. If you have a question,
Yeah,
I will
so
answer it.
You guys send me all
And, you know,
that.
as you think about the shows, I did something for another company. It was a beverage company
Mhm.
that had CBD in it. Bubbly Water, a Canadian company called
Yeah.
Cointreau. And I did something like this with several reporters. And we said to them, send, in this case, Ellen, your question about the series, about our astrology festival, and anything about yourself that you wanted to know. Give me your phone number so I can call you back. It's easier than writing, as my fingers need little pillows. I hope you have looked at Astrology Zone, my website. By the way, you can all get a free app. Either go on Google Play or Apple App Store, put in Susan Miller. You don't have to put in Daily Horoscope, Astrology Zone, and more by Susan Miller. You don't just put in Susan Miller, and I come up in a white blouse, and it's free. And yes, there is a paid subscription component if you want it, but you don't need it. And go to the little hamburger stack up at the top and go into the monthly, because the monthly is what made me famous. And I'm going to send all three of you I have something to show you. Yeah. This is the new cover for next year. I just got it.
Wow.
Oh my God, it's so pretty.
Oh gosh. And we have, a Black girl, a white girl, a Latina girl, and an Asian girl and a Latina girl. Yeah.
How cute.
So I work with Isaac, who did the Skinny Girls for Henry Bendels, and I fell in love with his work.
Oh my gosh, how fun.
And I'll call you and answer any question. Right now I'm in production for Astrology Zone, so I can't call you all on the same day, but I'll call each of you back. I'm very good about following up.
Yeah, I'll get all that info to you, Susan. And oh my God.
And the people at TMC are the nicest people on the planet. I don't know how they hire such nice people, but across the board, they're so warm.
Are you going to be back on TCM, Susan?
I don't know. We have to look at the figures. But yesterday in the lobby of my building, I had a mask on as required. And one lady I didn't even know, she said, "Oh my God, I saw you last night on TCM." And so we made friends, and we're going to have coffee. And then coming home, another lady said, "You were on last night." So you have a big audience. And 4 of my male friends, actually 5, Mickey Boardman at Paper Magazine, have been watching.
Yay.
So
we love
you have a big male audience. I don't know if you know the demographics on this particular, they on all of TCM, they love the old movies. So you have a dual audience like I do. I have 40% men on my website.
There you go.
According to Google Analytics. Wow. Yeah. Well, I write non-gender specific. And I'm a girly girl, but I have to keep the fluff factor down. I talk about makeup and clothes and shoes. I keep it even, Stephen. I try very hard. And my editors who I hire, I have 4 editors, takes a village. They have a style guide, and they know.
Right. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yes, we hope you come back on TCM because you are such an awesome fit, and it's so
I
fun.
would love it. These times need something happy.
Yeah.
Totally.
And
I couldn't agree more.
And I watch way too much news. I watch your sister company, CNN.
Right.
and when I'm working, I like the TV on, and I needed this. I always look for synchronicity. When you have something hard going on in your life, and losing my ex-husband, was hard for me. Absolutely. And then TCM calls literally the same month. Would you like to do this? And I thought, this is God trying to cheer me up, because it really had that effect. And to learn something new. I was learning so much from this. I loved it, and the readers were really responding well. Our mail was good. So you'll have to ask TCM if they got any mail. I don't know.
If I ran the network, you'd be on all the time.
Oh, kisses.
Thank you, Susan.
And thank you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, reporters.
And don't be shy about asking me any questions you want.
Oh, I'll definitely reach out. Thank you so much. This was amazing.
This is so fun.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.